Welcome to yet another video on SRID Cloud. In this video, we'll see something interesting as usual. I am mixing BGP and static routes together in this topology. So inside the data center, there is a core router and then an edge router connected to a network. And this is managed through a BGP protocol. But when it comes to connecting this data center to an external router, static routes are used. BGP is not used. Let's see how this is done. So here is the topology. There is a core and edge router in this topology. They are connected together with 172.16.10 network. And the core router is connected to a switch, which in turn is connected to a PC, and that is on 192.168.10 network. And between the edge router and the external router, there is a 10.140.10.0 network, and connected to the external router is 10.140.11.0 network, and it has its own switch and a PC. The intention here is to let the PCs on 192.168.10 and 10.140.11.0 network to talk to each other. And most importantly, the connectivity between the edge and external router is driven by static routes. And internally inside the data center, as I said earlier, the edge and core routers exchange their routes through BGP protocol. So now let's see what the configuration is. Let's go to the PC number 1. And let's look at the configuration. .192.168.1.2 is its IP, and the gateway is 192.168.1.1, which is on the core router. And now let's look at the switch. The first switch on the left. And let me do show IP and config brief. The first two ports, fast Ethernet 00 and 01, they are up and running, and that is where the PC and the core router are connected. And now let's move on to the core router and then look at how it is configured. So this is the core router. And let's look at the running configuration. There is a VRF on this particular router. Both the interfaces to the switch as well as to the edge router are all on this VRF. And let's see how the Gigabit Ethernet 1 is on VRF-A, as I said just now, and it has IP address 192.168.1.1, and it acts like a gateway for the left side network. And the Gigabit Ethernet 2 is also on VRF-A, and it has IP address 172.16.1.1, and there is a BGP setup here. The core and edge routers are connected through the BGP protocol. 65,000 is the ASN of the core router, and 66,000 is the ASN of the edge router. And now let's quickly take a look at the routes. There is nothing in the global routing table as expected. And let's look at the routing table of the VRF-A. So it has the 10.140.11.0 coming all the way from the right side network, which we will see in a moment. But the locally connected networks are the 172.16 and 192.168.1 on either side of the core router. So now let's move on to the edge router and then see how that is configured. So let me do the running configuration. And once again, there is a VRF on this router as well, only towards the core router. And the rest of the interfaces, the gigabit Ethernet 1, which is towards the core router, is on VRFA, and it has IP 172.16.1.2. And the gigabit Ethernet 2, which is towards the external router, let me move it a little bit, and that is not on any VRF at all, and it has IP 10.140.10.10, and there's nothing on 3 and 4, gigabit Ethernet 3 and 4, and the BGP is predominantly mainly only for connecting to the core. You can ignore the address family IPv4 global section, it has nothing in it anyway. And the network 10.140.11.0 is injected here because we are not going to be using the BGP between edge and the external routers. So that is why you see this network 10.140.11.0 added manually, are injected in this BGP rule. But otherwise, it's a straightforward BGP relationship to the core router. And at the end of it, we can see a couple of static routes defined. This is the static route that is required to connect this router to the 192.168.1.0 network. And there is something interesting about this actually. The gigabit Ethernet 2 is on the global global routing table, but the gigabit Ethernet 1 is on the VRFA. So this particular line, the IP route 192.168.1.0, is meant for incoming traffic from the external network into the data center. So when the traffic flows in through the connectivity between the edge and external routers, that traffic has to be pushed into the connectivity between core and edge routers. So that is accomplished with this particular statement. So on the edge router, there is a route added to 192.168.1.0, and that is through the gigabit Ethernet 1 connected to the core. And the next line, the IP route to 10.140.11.0 network, the external network, that is for traffic going out of the data center into the external network. And that route is added in the routing table of VRFA. And that is done through the 10.140.10.1 interface on the external network. And the external network connected to the edge router is on the global routing table, and that is why we have the keyword global mentioned at the very end of it. So these two statements are very, very important for this presentation. The first one being useful for the incoming traffic from outside, and the second line is meant for the traffic going out of the data center into the external network. So this is how in this topology the static routing and BGP are mixed together. Why would you want to do this kind of topology? There is no definite answer, but for some reason, if the external router cannot be connected through BGP, if static routing is the only option, then this is the way to go. So now let's look at the rest of the configuration. There's nothing else. Now let's go to the external router and then look at its configuration. So here it is. There are no VRFs on this particular router at all. So let's go all the way to the interfaces. The Gigabit Ethernet 1 is towards the edge router, and it carries IP address 10.140.10.1, and the Gigabit Ethernet 2 is towards the external network switch, and that is on that has an IP 10.140.11.1. And there is nothing on 3 and 4, and there is a static route added on this external router for the 192.168.10 network inside the data center, and that's driven through 10.140.10.10, which is the IP address on the edge router towards the external router. So as you noticed, for this kind of topology where BGP is not used, particularly between the edge and external routers, the static routes have to be added on both ends, and that is how the traffic can flow. So now let's take a look at the routing table. As expected, there is a 10.140.10 network and 192.168.10 network are statically or on this particular routing table. The 10.140.10.0 network and 10.140.11.0 network are directly connected to the external router, so they are in the routing table. And the static network 192.168.10 is injected manually through the IP route command. There are no VRFs on this router at all, so this is the only routing table that we have. I think we forgot to look at the routing tables of the edge router. Let's go there. So we are in the edge router right now, and show IP route. Since the edge router to external router is on the global routing table, there are entries in this output. The 10.140.10.0 is directly connected to the edge router on the global routing table, and the 192.168.10 is manually injected so that the connectivity can be established from the external into the data center. And let's look at the same in the VRFA routing table. The 10.140.11.0 is injected into this routing table so that the traffic can flow from the data center to the external network, and the 192.168.10 is BGP'd from the core router, and of course the 172.16.1 network is directly connected to the edge router. So now it's time for us to do some testing. So let's go to the PC number 1 and PC number 2, and let's try to ping each other. So there is PC number 1, and let me bring up the second PC on the right. There we go. So from the second PC, which is outside of the data center, I'm going to ping the PC inside the data center, and that is 192.168.12, and it goes through successfully. And similarly, from the PC inside the data center, I will try to ping the external PC, and that also goes through very well. So this is how you can play with BGP and the static route together into one topology. This is purely based on the need. BGP is used inside the data center, and for some reason the external network, external router can be connected only through static routing with the edge router. If that is the case, this is how you do it. And I hope you enjoyed this video as well, and I hope to see you in near future with another interesting topology like this. Have a wonderful evening, day or night, wherever you are, and bye for now.